My soul waits for the Lord, more than darkest despair waits for the morning. My soul hopes in the Lord, for he will surely be faithful to keep to his word. All that is promised is true. And now I have finally heard. And now I have finally heard.
So my name is Maxine, and I've lived here on Maui since 1998. I moved here with my two youngest sons after I got divorced. And we moved here because I was in the Women's Army Corps back in the end of the Vietnam War. And so I wanted to start over, and we moved here to start over. And I actually came to the Lord in 2001. I lived my whole life in darkness. I started, well, my parents lost their oldest son, and they, when he was quite young, and because of that, they never forgave the Lord for taking away their son, their firstborn. And I'm actually named after him. His name was Maxine. I'm Maxine. So I started running away from home and doing drugs when I was 12. And somehow graduated high school, joined the military to straighten myself up, but that didn't really help. Had a baby while I was in the military, and moved back to the Bay Area. And eventually got married, had 3 more kids, but we did a lot of drugs. We were doing a lot of drugs. We did just about everything during our marriage. And we got divorced in '98, and I took my 2 youngest sons, and we moved over here to Maui. And kind of to get away from the drugs, but I wasn't ready to leave them yet, so I got involved with people here that were still using drugs and still use drugs and alcohol here. And then I was also in 5 years in an abusive relationship while I was here, which is pretty scary for the kids, but it's scary for me. But luckily, I got a DUI and had to go through the drug treatment program at Aloha House, and they wouldn't let me graduate until I went to Women Helping Women and got out of the abusive relationship. So it kind of helped with the drugs, but then I switched to alcohol. I was one of those switcher kind. Well, it's not an illegal drug; it's illegal alcohol. So then I kept drinking, although I kept going to AA, and I didn't know God, but what the people there told me was still pray to a higher power, even if it's just AA. They're not saying that AA is God, but they're just saying if you totally don't believe in God, just, make AA sort of your God while you're trying to get rid of alcohol. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I don't mean to put that into their words, but I didn't know God at all, so I just kept going to AA, and I used to call myself the 10-day wonder, because I wondered why I couldn't go 10 days without alcohol. But so at that same time, I had my right hip replaced and was out of work, so I went to lawfare to get food stamps, and they referred me to this organization called Feed My Sheep. And Feed My Sheep uses the Luke 10 model, with, to fellowship and give prayer and pray for your needs. And I went to them for about a year. Now my 2 boys were teenagers then, and one of them was not doing so well, getting into trouble with the law. And every week when I'd go to Feed My Sheep, when I'd get food and they'd offer prayer, then I'd be praying for my son, and they'd show me Bible verses and share their testimonies. And finally, just one week, I just accepted the Lord. took me a while still to go to church. It took another year. First I went to a mini church, and we were doing purpose-driven life, and then that got me to church. And then, then my son was in a car accident, and that really got me to church, I guess. Because the doctor, he was a passenger in a car, and they went through a fence, and a 1/2 inch by 4 inch board went through here, broke his clavicle, broke his scapula from the front, and all his muscle was hanging out. And the doctor said, well, he'll never raise his arm over his head again. And I called up someone in the prayer training, and it ended up that 23 kids from the youth down at Grace Bible came down, and the youth pastor came down, and they started praying over him before he went in for surgery. And in fact, there were so many kids down there at the emergency room that they limited it to 3 kids at a time going in and praying for him. And when the doctor came out of surgery, after saying he'll never lift his arm again, the doctor said it's a miracle. That went in, it may have broken 2 bones, but it missed every nerve, every artery, every vein in him. It looked, and he said, the doctor said it was a miracle. So I went to church the next Sunday. But still, even though, I'd had miracles in my life, I still didn't really know the Lord. Well, another miracle that happened kind of right away when I got saved, though, was that I gave up drinking. I knew God didn't want me to drink. I knew that, there was something better, and also it helped with the abusive relationship. And all my life, I'd felt alone.